like a picture-in-picture thing.
Okay.
No, that wasn't it. Okay, well, I'll just go when you're ready.
Yeah, so same deal as everyone heard before. You have about 30 participants right now. And if everyone would like to add their question and answer over in the chat in the Q&A box to the right. And if there's time permitting at the end, we're going to allow her 3 to 5 minutes at the end for Q&A. And so this is Elizabeth Hughes with Earth Conservancy. And actually, if you want to, you could start a slideshow there from beginning. And that will sort of get you.
Yep, is that good?
There you go.
No?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, go for it.
All right, so as Ann just said, my name's Elizabeth Hughes, and I'm with Earth Conservancy. And if you were on the panel discussion in the beginning of the conference, our president, CEO, Terry Ostrowski, talked a little bit about the work that we've been doing for over 25 years. So I'm going to do a brief overview of that, as well as one of the newer initiatives that we've taken on in the past. We're in our 3rd year of it, the Environmental Workforce Training Program. So as Terry mentioned, again, we are working up in the northeastern corner of Pennsylvania. We're in that upper anthracite coal field, and that region, as most of you know, exploded during the Industrial Revolution due to the discovery of anthracite coal. That happened in, I think, about 1770. And then the first mine was actually set up 5 years later. And then from that point forward, the mining industry, the railroads, all the attendant industries that were needed to support those things just like boomed. Over 100 million tons of coal were being extracted from the region annually during the peak of the coal industry. And I found this fact doing another presentation that Luzerne County, where we're located in, the population grew over 20 years, 34%. So in 1920, it was nearly 400,000 people in Luzerne County. This is the Huber Breaker. This was kind of a marvel of modern engineering in relation to the coal industry when it was built in the late 1930s, basically because of the structural elements of it, all the glass that was used, but this was actually where our offices were built outside of it. This was part of the Blue Coal Corporation's operations. This was one of their many collieries. And in our region, we had collieries that were spaced, just 2 miles from one another. So all the towns really grew because of these collieries and, again, all the industries that were associated with them. But when they closed up shop, it kind of was exacerbated. There was a decline in the industry, but we had the Knox coal mining disaster, which the Susquehanna River broke through the bed due to mining underneath it, and it flooded all the underground mines. So mining industry kind of had to close up shop after that. And because there were no regulations at the time, plus most of the companies were going bankrupt, they were able to just leave all their lands as they were. So you have sites like this. You can see the Susquehanna in the back of the picture. This was our Avondale mine site that ended up being reclaimed. That was done by AMR. But this is just, a snapshot of what you see across our valley as well as the coal regions, both on the east and the west sides of Pennsylvania. And then this is the same Huber Breaker that I showed you before. This was taken in 1992, and that was actually the year Earth Conservancy was founded. We didn't start work until 1994. But again, as I said, those towns were literally built right around the collieries. And then I just want to show these statistics because, again, it wasn't just that environmental damage, but it was the other effects, especially to the economy, that correlated with the closing of the coal mines. So again, we had that high in 1920 of nearly 400,000 people. We had a decline of 19%, which isn't huge, but it's not great. But then when you look at the towns that we're working in, Wilkes-Barre, Nanticoke, between that 100 years, we had 50 to 56% declines in populations. And then the unemployment also went with that, and we haven't fully recovered. So those unemployment statistics are from last month. You know, we still usually rank at least a percentage point above the state when it comes to unemployment. And also, again, household incomes are low, poverty levels are higher, we have a lower ratio of college graduates, and then there are also health issues that go with that as well. So Earth Conservancy was founded in light of this because the Blue Coal Corporation was trying to sell their lands piecemeal just to get some income coming in. Earth Conservancy thought there has to be a better way to use those 16,000 acres of land. And so with Congressman Kanjorski, he was from Nanticoke, he kind of spearheaded this, got local colleges and industry and other local leaders to get together, raise $16 million to purchase that land, and then with it really plan to how to use it to benefit not only the environment but also the community and the economy. So we do several activities. Our 5 main things, I'll just go through these in the following slides. Land use planning is huge. This is what we started with. This is an image from our first land use plan back in 1996. We had 38 members on our stakeholder committee. All the communities, you can see 16,000 acres is quite large. All the communities were represented that these, you know, during this planning process. And as Terry mentioned, one of the things they committed to was to reserve 10,000 acres of the land for recreation and green space. And the circles there are just targeting the areas that really had the most really damaged, mine-scarred properties that we were going to address. The red circle was the first one we did, basically because we looked at what infrastructure was there and already in place. So mine land reclamation, after that land use plan, as I said, we targeted things and we've done reclamation projects. We're at about 2,000 acres reclaimed. Watershed restoration, we've built 3 treatment systems. 2 are currently in operation that you see pictured there. And then again, that 10,000 acres, we've built 3 different trail systems. We've put recreation fields in. We look to do a cultural heritage park for the Ashley Plains. That's pictured over on the left-hand side of the screen. And we're right now in the midst of both a feasibility study for an ATV park as well as one for another recreation area in Hanover Township. That would be a 30-acre site. So in total, at this point, we've had completed 10 land use plans. We've reclaimed 2,000 acres. We have the AMD treatment system. That, and then to jump down, we actually do donate land to local, like municipalities and stuff. For example, for like a new municipal building, we did one. And then we have that 8,700 acres that have currently been conserved, and we're in the process of conserving another 700 acres. So we're getting pretty close to that 10,000 acre goal. So now to switch to this environmental workforce training program. So we've been chugging along for 20 plus years, and a lot of our funding comes from not only the state, but the EPA through grants. And talking to our project officer there at the EPA, he knew that I had a background in education. I have a doctorate in out-of-school learning, so outside the formal K-12 school system. And he asked if I had ever looked at this program that they sponsor called the Environmental Workforce Development and Job Training Program. And it's a series of grants that they've run for over 20 years, 28 years. My math's not great. Anyway, no, 20 years. And they've had over, at this point, I'm sure the number's higher, 15,000 people completing the training. 72% of them find employment in the environmental field. And the whole point of the program was to get people back to work, because this is through the brownfields revitalization section of the EPA. They looked for places that had an inordinate amount of brownfields, and with that, as you saw in my numbers, a correlation with higher rates of unemployment. So the thought was, if you train people in the local area to deal with those brownfields, you're doing not only the benefits for the environment and the economy, but also for the people that live there as well, improving their quality of life. So when this was proposed to me, I talked to Mike Ziak, our previous CEO, and we tried to brainstorm, well, what could we do with this program? Because most of the programs center around what you would call, I guess, a traditional brownfields, things like an abandoned gas station, or that's the Bethlehem steel plant, I believe. And so usually the programs that were funded were doing things like lead abatement, asbestos, underground storage tanks. Like, how do you clean up those types of, chemicals and damage to the ground? We're not dealing with that. We're dealing with mine-scarred land, but that is technically a brownfield according to the general definition. So we came up with the idea of, he remembered that our local Penn State facility, Penn State Wilkes-Barre, had a surveying engineering program. So he said, why don't you reach out to them, because that obviously has a lot to do with what we deal with. So I did, and what I found out, they're actually one of only 6 4-year survey engineering programs in the whole country, which was really amazing because it's a very small little rural campus, but they were all on board. So we worked with them and the continuing education office at Penn State to put this program, or at least to apply for a grant to put the program into play. As we talked about it with them and for the grant, you had to kind of justify why we were doing this. You can't simply be doing good. You have to have a reason for doing that good to really make an impact. So we found out, and this was actually brought to my attention by Frank Derby, the head of the surveying engineering program, that there is a shortage of professional land surveyors right now. A lot of them are about to retire. So there's definitely a need to get people into that field. And then the the Center for Workforce Information and Analysis, there's also an increase. Generally there's an increase for STEM type jobs, but actual survey, engineering, and construction technician jobs were definitely in need. And then the skills that go with that, like CAD, map making, measuring, simply learning how to use tape measures and stuff. All of those are skills that are highly in demand, and all of those were going to align with what we do. The other thing that we thought about was our area in this region is it highly revolves around warehousing, and that is, looking forward, is going to become a very disruptible industry. In fact, in the Wall Street Journal last year, there was an article, and out of the 100 largest metros in the United States, we ranked number 9 as the most disruptible area in relation to that economy. And then when you get into quality of life, people just aren't happy. They either aren't finding jobs with educations, or, I've had a lot of people come to me from the warehouse and saying they're just not fulfilled. And the idea of working outside and doing something that was meaningful was very appealing to them. So again, you get into that issue of quality of life and making people really, pleased to be in the area and working in the area. So as I said, we first reached out to Penn State, and then through Penn State, we started working with our 4 workforce investment boards. We received grants first through the EPA, then we also had them from the PPL Foundation, as well as this past year was funded by the Appalachian Regional Commission. And then, of course, we have to do recruiting. So we have veterans organizations. We've targeted veterans because their skills really do align very well with what we do in the training program. And then other social service organizations in the area. And then we also have an advisory network, because obviously you want to have input from professionals in the field that might consider hiring these people. So you can see EPCANner's one of ours, and then as well as 4 different engineering firms from the area. So what happened was, we were actually, back in 2017, we were one of 14 organizations nationally out of probably about 100 applications to receive one of these grants. And we were blown away and thrilled, but then we really had to figure out, well, what are we doing? So this is what we kind of conceived of, and it's transformed a little bit over the years as we get more input from companies about what they want to see in their employees. But you can see we have 10 courses. It totals 233 contact hours, and we squeeze all of that into a 10-week sequence of courses. So it's very demanding. The students are meeting days, they're meeting nights, they're meeting weekends. And then by the end, again, they've received, let's see if that's the next slide. Oh, no, these are pictures of the actual program. But by the end, they received 3 federal certifications, as well as, training in a wide range of things, focusing mainly on the surveying. That's about 70 hours. So you can see the first week we actually take them. There's Mike Hewitt right there on the top line. EPCAMR and Earth Conservancy, we teach the Intro to Brownfields course. You can see over in the corner, I believe that's Robert. Out at the Harry Bank, we do, show them what the mining industry has done to the region, and most of them have no clue that, that has been going on, or the Orange Waters, that's down in Old Forge at the borehole. But then we do a lot of hands-on. They're out in the field. You can see they're there in the snow doing their work. They're doing the HAZWOPER training. They do first aid, so they actually have something that they can take with them. They get their OSHA 10, that's in the lower left corner. But they're also getting these technical skills. You can see that Shawnice there, she's doing the AutoCAD work. So, it's a great cadre of different courses. Like, they're all related and you can take them into a lot of different areas, but they do have that common core of being able to go out and look to environmental careers. So as I said, at the end, they get the 3 federally recognized certifications. They also get 23.3 CEUs from Penn State University, and that's, for putting that on a resume, that's a great thing to have. We do technical writing, part of which is working on the resume. We help them with a cover letter. We're able to give references or letters of recommendation. And for 1 year following this closing ceremony, which you see pictured here, we obviously didn't get to do that this year, but we bring in engineering firms so people can, present their resumes, talk to employers in the field. I work with them for the following year trying to find them employment, because that's the main goal of this program. It's not just to run the training. Again, it's not just to do good and give people a little enrichment. It's to find them jobs and help them in their lives and help the region's economy as well. So the program outcomes, because again, that's what we're interested in. You can see the demographics over on the left-hand side of the class. The interesting thing I always find about this is that the majority of people have some college or, a 4-year or even a master's degree in the program when you add it all up. There's definitely a range of ages. I had a gentleman in his 80s this past year. And then with the graduates, we're doing pretty well with placement and the average wages. And a lot of those people are staying in their jobs for 1 year or more. This is what happened for 2020. Obviously, things shifted. We were out in the field. You can see that's Professor Frank Derby there instructing Quamir here how to, set up the level. That was on a Wednesday night, and Thursday we stopped. So we were luckily able to restart classes this past September, and we were able to finish out the cohort. Unfortunately, we only had 5 people left. That's a long time for people to be going out without working. So in the interim, I did do job searches. And I think the average wage for the people that have found employment is around $16.25 per hour. These are just some of our success stories. Quickly, this gentleman up in the upper right in the middle, that's Tommy. He was a veteran. He was really kind of floundering, I'll say, and facing a lot of life challenges. He got into the program. He was hired immediately after finishing and received 5 raises within the first year of employment, and actually got another job working with the water company, I believe. So he was working 2 jobs. He was amazing. And the employer said, please send us more like him. I'm not sure if some of you know the two women up in the middle, that's Shawnice and Laura. Both of them were interns at EPCAMR, and EPCAMR was, ended up hiring both of them, and they're still there. They're doing amazing things. Shawnice is their GIS specialist there. And Laura, who was a former teacher, she's now, doing a lot with their education programming, doing a lot to make things more standards-based and doing a lot of creative things. I'll point out, let's see, the three people at the other total station there. The one is with the blonde long hair. She actually came into the program, I don't even know if she was 21 at the time. She just went out to, she applied to be a game commission officer, and she was one of 35 people accepted into the program last year. And so she's, going to have all the authority of a state police person at the end of her training this year, which is, we're just beyond proud of her. And then the guy there, that's our Ask Him treatment system. He interned with us this past summer, and he is now working for us part-time, plus he enrolled in Penn State's surveying program. So just to close up, funding is obviously always going to be an issue. It's expensive to run these programs, especially through, a state university. That is not cheap. I think the thing that I'm seeing the most difficult is helping these people, break into the industry. I don't know if it's going to be easier or harder right now because of the way, the job market has been with so many people unemployed. Like, there has to be a way. As I said, a lot of these people have some college. They might not have experience though, and previously there was this mandate to have people, having their 4-year degree. And I'm not saying for an upper level job, I'm saying even for like a rodman position with a surveying company where you're just holding the pole and assisting a surveyor. Like, it's not something that needs a 4-year degree. It's something that you can learn, and you already have the skills obviously through this program. So I'm really hoping to see, especially with the need for green jobs going forward, that people are a little bit more willing, again, with the issues with the college education system right now, people not finishing their programs because of COVID, there's a little more openness to taking a chance. So I'm going to close at that. And I see Mary's there too. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them if I could right now, but I don't see them on my screen, so I couldn't read them.
Okay. I apologize. There was a little bit of a glitch, but Elizabeth, you do have a question. Let me just pull it up here. Has Earth Conservancy reached out to other Penn State campuses within the area county that have similar engineering programs to expand the workforce training program?
No, I would love to be able to do that, but right now, we can't. I mean, just funding wise, because we have to pay for the courses. So no. That would be a whole nother grant, but it would be great because one of the challenges with working with, so we target unemployed, underemployed people in the area. That's one of the requirements for applicants. A lot of unemployed people have issues with transportations, and in our area, it is not really a bus-friendly area. If we were in Philadelphia, it'd be a whole nother thing, and I could offer travel vouchers to people. But like, I've had calls from people down in Hazleton, but for them to come up to Penn State Wilkes-Barre is not feasible. So it'd be something I'd love to see, but it's not something that's feasible at this time.
Okay. The next question is, would the USEPA consider funding follow-up internships with organizations who could potentially sponsor a recent graduate of your cohort to allow them to gain valuable experience?
I have not seen anything like that. I would love it if that were possible. Yeah, no, I have not seen it. I mean, right now we are working with CareerLink, and CareerLink has several different internship programs that help us alleviate the costs of that. So that's what we used. I know that's what AppCamera used, and I try to get other companies to consider using that as well, because again, it's getting that foot in the door. I mean, even with Michael, he was a great student, but it took about 2-3 months, the time of the internship, to get him up to speed where he could go off and do his own thing. So that would be a huge help, I think, if there were programs like that.
All right. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. We appreciate it. And again, I apologize for the technical issue. For those of you that are requesting professional development hours, please fill out the review form and share your comments. Thank you all very, very much.